Hi, I'm Colleen Pearl, the Cool Crone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about Mercury going retrograde in Libra, September 26th through October 19th. Mercury will be going retrograde in Libra at 28 degrees on September 26th. And depending on where you are, this may actually start on September 27th, because where I am on the East Coast of the United States, the actual retrograde motion is very, very late, almost to midnight on the 26th. So it's really going to affect people on the 27th. Mercury will then station direct in October on the 19th at 10 degrees of Libra. And if you watched my video about how to handle Mercury retrograde, you'll know that that means that we have about 3 weeks, like usual, of Mercury retrograde, and we will have a shadow period that starts when Mercury is at 10 degrees of Libra, and the shadow at the end will end when Mercury returns once again to 28 degrees of Libra. What should you do during Mercury in retrograde? Well, I did mention all of this in my previous video about how to handle things in Mercury retrograde, but let's review. You should hold off signing important documents. You should review or rethink major decisions. You should return to incomplete projects and finish them. You should focus on review, repair, and returning to items, issues, and projects that have previously been started. You should go within. You should meditate on things you feel are not working in your life. You should reflect on why things are happening the way they are right now in your life. And most importantly, you should allow your expectations to shift. This is the real reason that the universe throws Mercury retrograde at us. It is to allow us to expand our thinking, to embrace new concepts, and to change the way we've dealt with things having to do with transportation, commerce, communication, and our everyday routines. This is so important when it comes to Mercury retrograde. Now, let's look at what it means to have Mercury in Libra. Libra is an air sign, so it is focusing on communication with others. It's also a very social sign, and Libra rules relationships. So we're going to be focusing on communication with others in our family, people that we work with, our close friends, and our actual partners, business partners, spouses, lovers, etc. It will also have an impact on diplomacy or negotiation, arbitration. And most importantly for most Libras, Mercury in Libra in retrograde will have to do with how to avoid confrontations. Above all, most Libras do try to avoid confrontations unless they think they can have a discussion that is fair and that they can bring about a good judgment from that conversation. Libras think of themselves as judges, and they do think of themselves as very, very fair. So they very often will point out to people what is not fair in their argument. And they're pretty good at keeping things on an even keel and not getting into a shouting match. Now, if they're having that conversation with somebody who is prone to shouting matches, that may not always work. But Mercury in Libra is going to focus on these types of activities. Focus on communication with others, diplomacy, and avoiding confrontation. When Mercury is retrograde in the air sign of Libra, you're going to find that your love life may go haywire. Things having to do with your loved ones just may not be communicated effectively, and it may cause problems. People or situations from the past may return or repeat. Communications in general will suffer because of misunderstandings. You may experience a lack of patience in yourself or others during a Mercury retrograde, and you may find that there are mistakes in written communications. And again, don't sign any important documents during any Mercury retrograde, but especially a Mercury retrograde in an air sign, because that's where you're going to be vulnerable to making mistakes. Let's look at other planetary influences that are going to be taking place during this 3-week Mercury retrograde period. First of all, September 26th itself is going to be an amazing day. We have the sun trine the moon. We have the sun and the moon trining Saturn. We have the sun conjuncting Mars. We have the moon trining Mars. And we have Mercury trining Jupiter. All of this trine energy has just enough punch from that conjunction of Sun and Mars to give it real oomph and to allow all of these good, harmonious, flowing energies in the air signs to really get communications going. So I know it's a really great day, but unfortunately, it's going to spark a lot of talking and communication and writing that should not be taking place during a Mercury retrograde. However, if these communications, talking and writing, have to do with things that have been ongoing for a long time, or maybe it's a return to a particular topic that was dropped and never finished, then I feel that the Mercury retrograde period will serve these communications well. You have Saturn there so that things are grounded. The attitudes and perspectives are mature and conservative and cautious. But you've also got Jupiter there that is bringing the conversation up to a higher minded level. It's allowing people to have truly inspired conversations that come from a very good, beneficial place. You've got the moon, which is trining Saturn and the Sun-Mars conjunction. The moon is giving a voice to the more feminine side of the equation, but it's also working competently and complementary with the male energy of Sun-Mars in conjunction. The Jupiter and Saturn are just giving blessings to everything going on communication-wise on this particular day, until, of course, Mercury goes retrograde. But this will also give a time frame for those of us who are looking at, say, national issues. It could be that we come to a big negotiation that culminates on September 26th. And then about a month later, 3 to 4 weeks later, we see the actual result of all of this coordination and meeting and conversation. On the day that Mercury actually goes direct, I've placed this on September 27th because that's the day that most people are going to experience this in the United States. The sun is still trining Saturn. The sun is still conjunct Mars. The moon is trining Mercury. The moon is trining Jupiter now. Mercury is still trining Jupiter. Mars is still trining Saturn. Now, though, Venus is trining Neptune. The moon is squaring Neptune. Mercury is squaring Pluto. Venus is squaring Jupiter. And Venus is in opposition to Uranus. Now, this may be a lot for all of you to take in, and I know it's more like looking at a chart as a professional astrologer would look at a chart, but it's important for you to understand that there are so many planetary influences that go into any kind of a chart reading. I mean, just looking at the fact that Venus is trining Neptune, but the moon is squaring Neptune. Do they cancel each other out? Well, no, not really. Venus trine Neptune boosts everything up to sort of a fantasy, very feminine, very romantic, maybe very spiritual level. And the moon square Neptune is obfuscation. It's fogginess, it's dissolution, it's dissolving those things. So you may have factions of people who are representing both of those aspects, where some people are very high-minded, very, very idealistic, and working from a very pure heart or spiritual place. And then you may have others who are working from a more deceptive place where they want to control things. They want things to go their way at all costs, and they're not willing to bend. But Neptune's in Pisces and the moon will be in Gemini. Those are mutable signs. So it'll be interesting to see how that aspect plays out. On the day that Mercury goes retrograde, we still have an awful lot of really, really positive aspects. So I think in general that on the day that Mercury goes retrograde, which usually sets the tone for the whole retrograde period, that actually things will go pretty well. There will still be people who are trying to keep secrets, which is the moon square Neptune. There will still be unexpected developments, which is Venus opposition Uranus. Uranus doesn't really involve anything else. And of course, it's still squaring Saturn. So you're still going to have people who are in positions of authority that are surprised by information that comes to light. So with all of this focus on communication in the air signs when Mercury goes retrograde, you can be sure that there will be lots of conflicting information in the news and probably in your life as well. There will be mistakes, there will be miscommunications, there will be lots of conversations. And all of this may contribute to people really getting down in the dirt and trying to figure out what is the truth. So this could really spur people on to a real search for the truth during this period. Now, don't forget that at the end of 2020, we had the Great Conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. And Aquarius likes to think of itself as the great communicator. Aquarius is a visionary sign. It's a sign that looks to the future for humanity, but it also looks for justice, equality, and raising the quality of life for the masses. It always looks at humanity as a group and does not focus so much on individuals. Although the sign Aquarius, for the person who is the Aquarius, is all about the individual. So it's a dichotomy there that Aquarius really thinks about themselves a lot. They are a fixed air sign after all, but their job in the universe is to take care of the large masses of other people. So it's kind of interesting. They say that, you know, Aquarians have thousands of friends, but no best friend, because the people close to them are very private, and Aquarius will keep that very, very close to their chest. And yet they may know thousands of people. Thousands of people may consider them friends to the Aquarius, but the Aquarius looks out across the masses and thinks, oh, I'm so lonely. I wish I had a best friend. Now back to the Great Conjunction. So the Great Conjunction set up the 200-year cycle between Saturn and Uranus, where it would dance back and forth every 20 years in the air signs. And this is putting a huge, huge emphasis on communication. If you watched my Saturn-Uranus video, then you'll know that the next conjunction between Saturn and Uranus is also going to be in an air sign. It's going to be in Gemini, not until 2032. This emphasis for the time that we're living in on communication on air signs is quite important, and it cannot be dismissed. So even when we have Mercury retrograde in an air sign, that is important as well. The focus on the air signs means that during this Mercury retrograde, things will be moving pretty quickly, whereas usually with a Mercury retrograde, things really slow down. Now, it may not seem to be hurtling through the universe like the previous Mercury retrogrades that we had this year in Gemini and Aquarius, because Libra is a more gentle sign. So Libra likes to wrap everything in, cozy wool so that it buffers it. So we will have conversations that are well-meaning, but maybe taken the wrong way, rather than just putting the ideas in just like, these are my ideas, take them or leave them. That's not the way Libra is going to present anything. It's going to be couched in very diplomatic terms. Also, all of this emphasis on the air signs means that we really do have to shift our thinking. We really have to look at the way we're taking in information from external sources and shift the way we process that information and the way we communicate about that information. So air signs have a great impact and emphasis at this time. Now we're on to the fire signs. Okay. All right, so for the fire signs, now, fortunately for you guys, this quick air energy is fine for you. You're comfortable with it. You appreciate the need for change. In fact, in some cases, you're actually going after the change. You want the change. You're open to changing perspectives, so this is not difficult for you. I wish you could share this with the water signs. You may seek information from brand new sources and from people who think differently from you, because you appreciate keeping up and moving on and going forward. You should realize too that the changes may lead to important developments in your relationships and in your community. So for you guys, this Mercury retrograde in an air sign is pretty good, except for the actual things that Mercury kind of screws up in general when it's Mercury retrograde. But you, of all the signs, I think, will already realize that there's a purpose to Mercury retrograde and that it helps us move forward. It is not just a bedevilment that the universe visits upon us 3 times a year. So let's look at you individually, fire signs. First sign up is Aries. So Aries, you have this Mercury and Libra retrograde in your 7th house. So for you, double dose of love life can go haywire. You and your spouse, and this could go also for a business partner, are going to have miscommunications. You're going to miss the boat. You're going to miss each other. You're going to miss scheduling. You're going to miss a lot of stuff. And communications in general for Aries is so important because it took you a long time to learn to communicate effectively with your partner. So when things start getting messed up, you almost feel like saying, well, see, why did I even bother to do that? Everything got messed up anyway. But don't give in to that. That's Neanderthal thinking. You know, and you should know by now, that communication in a relationship is everything. It's what gives the relationship strength. So try not to get too upset about the things going haywire. Just realize that they are going to go haywire. Now let's bring in the blessing of Saturn and Mars. So Mars is going to be in that 7th house. That's your ruling planet, Aries, and that's going to make you possibly have fights with your partner. You're going to disagree vehemently. You're going to be disagreeing, though, about things that have been miscommunicated. So, don't pull out the boxing gloves yet. Don't shoot the messenger. You guys have to wait until things can be communicated correctly. You've got Saturn in the 11th house. So your friends at this time are older, more conservative. They're supporting you in a weird way because you're seeing them for what they are. They are more conservative. They aren't these forward-thinking pioneers going all the way out to the front of the universe people. They are people who are really kind of staying in their lane. And this is maybe going to make you feel like your friends are too old for you, or that your friends are too fuddy-duddy, too stuck in the mud for you, but they are your friends. So just wait out this Mercury retrograde period, because this is making everything seem a little bit weird. And the Mars there in your 7th house is going to make you a little more feisty. So you may have arguments and say things that you really don't mean. And I don't want that for you, Aries. I don't want you to kind of backtrack, because I know that being in a relationship is really important for you. And it's one of the things that you've come here in this lifetime to really work on. So don't let one little Mercury retrograde screw everything up. All right, now let's go on to Leo. All right, Leo. So Mercury is in your 3rd house. Yay, it's in the house for communication for you. and that's where it's retrograde. So your day-to-day routine is going to be bedeviled for those 3 weeks of Mercury retrograde. You're buying your coffee in the morning, driving into work or whatever train you take. There's going to be delays. There's going to be holdups. There's going to be issues. Communications at work, communications that are just normal are going to be a little bit messed up. That's just going to happen for the 3 weeks that Mercury is retrograde. Just absorb that, get used to it. Don't fight it, and you'll be okay. Go back to the beginning and watch the beginning of the video, and also watch the video that I made that is all about how to handle the Mercury retrograde. That's going to be very helpful for you, Leo. Okay, now let's look at Saturn and Mars in their little trine. So it's nice that Saturn and Mars are in a trine. That's the good news. But the bad news is that they're both malefics anyway. So it's not like they're bringing, unicorns and rainbows to your life. Mars in your third house is just going to make things worse as far as your reaction to the foul ups that Mercury retrograde rains down on your everyday life. So resist it, Leo. Rise above it. So they dropped a coffee before they could get it to your car. At least they didn't drop it in your car. So they'll get you another one. Just chill while they do that. Say somebody sent an email and it went out to everybody instead of just to you. You know what? Things happen. People make mistakes. And during Mercury retrograde, they're going to make a lot of them. And you also are going to misunderstand things. You're going to look right at text that you normally would read perfectly, and you're going to see something else. It's just what's going to happen in Mercury retrograde. Just try to be a little bit chill with this Mercury retrograde and just relax a little bit with it. Just realize, mark it on your calendar. I have 3 weeks. I just have to be calm about everything. I can't overreact, because you're going to want to overreact with that Mars there. Now, Saturn in your 7th house means that things having to do with your partner may be delayed or may take on a more burdensome feeling. They may feel too constrictive. Something about things going on with your partner may really feel like they're hemming you in, and this somehow is affecting your day-to-day routine. So, you got to deal with that too. That aspect is pretty good for at least the first week of Mercury retrograde. I'm not sure that lasts the whole 3 weeks of the Mercury retrograde, but whatever is going on that first day of Mercury retrograde is kind of setting the tone for the Mercury retrograde period. So realize that there are things that you can't fight against them. Fighting against them is not going to change them. So again, you just have to be calm. You just have to kind of roll with it. And that's what I have for you, Leo. And now let's move on to Sagittarius. Sag, you have Mercury retrograde in Libra in the 11th house, and that's probably not a bad place to have it. Now, as I said up top for the fire signs, you don't have a real hard time with this Mercury retrograde as far as understanding what it's for and intellectually accepting what Mercury retrograde is bringing. What you may have some problems with is in day-to-day through the 3-week period, you may feel like, ugh, I don't want that to get messed up. And you'll see something get messed up and you go, oh, Mercury retrograde. So you'll feel like, everything that ever gets messed up in your life is down to Mercury retrograde. And it's not. It's only for 3 weeks every time it comes about. It doesn't mean every single mistake you ever made was caused by Mercury. This is going to affect groups that you're a part of mainly. Now, the 11th house is friends, hopes, wishes, dreams, whatever. Now, your dreams and everything are not lasting only for the 3 weeks of Mercury retrograde. So I don't think it's going to affect that part of your life so much. Although you may, for a minute, just change your dream to something completely odd and foreign to you. And then when Mercury retrograde is done, you may go back to your regular dream. But in general, I think this is going to focus on groups for you. So be prepared for miscommunications within groups big time. And then we're going to throw in the added extra bonus of Mars and Saturn. So Mars in that 11th house, also for your hopes and dreams and wishes, is also going to affect your groups. So watch the communications that they don't lead to arguments and feistiness, and you even thinking maybe you don't need this group anymore and breaking out of it. Don't make decisions like that during Mercury retrograde. It's not beneficial. You'll only end up going back to the group and feeling embarrassed. So, just try to keep your head, try to be cool about it, and don't overreact if you can avoid it. Now, Saturn is in your third house in Aquarius. It is trining Mars, but both Saturn and Mars are malefics. They're not the happy fuzzy planets. So Saturn is going to be making your commute to work slower. It's going to be making, you really dot the I's and cross the T's on every little thing that you do in your day-to-day world. You may feel restricted by this. You may feel like, oh my God, every day I got to go get a bagel for the boss or a bagel for my wife or whatever, and this is just killing me. Saturn is just putting the brakes on your everyday routine, your minor transactions in life, your neighborhood, your brothers and sisters. So be aware of that. That's coming up. That's happening. And you can deal with it, Sagittarius. It's not the end of the world. It's going to be okay. But realize the big ball game is when it comes to the groups. You don't want to blow up your relationships in those groups because you're going to need those. You're going to want those. Sag, you love having friends. All the fire signs do. They're very, very social and they're very good at making friends. So don't blow it just because of one Mercury retrograde. Okay, that wraps it up for Mercury in Libra. Don't forget to see my video all about how to handle Mercury retrograde. It will be very instructive for all 12 signs. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.